Hello, everybody. My name is Peter Curran from LucidWorks. Welcome to the B2B Online presentation by LucidWorks and Newpig. It's how Newpig use search analytics to understand customer intent and bring new products to market during a global pandemic. I'm joined today by John McQuaid from Newpig, and he's going to talk to you a little bit about some things that they did that were innovative this year during this pandemic we're all living through. And I'm going to start the session off and talk a little bit about something that I think is quite new for a lot of B2B companies, and that is on-site search optimization. And if it is new to you, if it's something that you haven't really focused on before, and you're turning your attention to it now, I want to give you my opinion about how you should prioritize the work that you do. And then John will go into his case study on the product that they brought to market. So without further ado, search priorities, how to find and prioritize the search problems on your website. So to explain this to you, we're going to need to refer to a diagram. And what I'd like you to pretend is that all of these things that look like records here are all of the products that you have for sale on your website. Now, it could be all the documents on the website, it doesn't have to be products, but let's just think of it for this conversation, since we're thinking about e-commerce. Let's think of this as all the products that you have for sale. And if you think about all of the products that you have for sale in the context of a navigation decision that a user makes, it's pretty simple, right? The things that are categorized under a given category are relevant to that category. Otherwise, you wouldn't have put them there. So the concept of relevancy in the context of browse and navigation is pretty straightforward. There are some problems that you run into. So you'll run into, for example, a product that's put into a category when it shouldn't have been, maybe an overly complicated set of categories which have very few products in each one, or the opposite, very few categories with a whole bunch of unrelated products within them. These kinds of categorization problems can sometimes mean that the user gets an irrelevant set of products back when they navigate. But in general, we can consider navigation to be fairly straightforward as opposed to search. In the case of search, you still have the idea of relevant products and irrelevant ones, but there's another variable, and that is, what are the products that the search engine is going to return? And to illustrate the products that the search engine is going to return, I've drawn a purple lasso around a set of products. And you'll notice I'm pulling some relevant ones back and some irrelevant ones. And this concept is called recall. This is the idea that the user enters some words and I use some kind of an approach, whether it's a traditional lexical approach, in other words, looking for those words in product records, or I use a non-lexical semantic approach using vector search, for example, then I can bring certain products back. And those products that I bring back are the ones that I've recalled. And then after I do that, I have the decision about which one do I put first and second and third and fourth and so on. So if we start with this concept of recall and look at this lasso that I've wrapped around a set of, looks like around 16 products here, I can group all of the products in my search index now as it relates to this particular query into 4 different categories. True positives, which are the relevant products that my search brought back. False positives, which are the irrelevant products that my search brought back. True negatives, which are the irrelevant products that my search did not bring back, and false negatives, which are the relevant products that my search did not bring back. So I've got these 4 categories: true positives, false negatives, and true negatives. And if we break a set of search results into these 4 categories, we can kind of group them broadly as being good or bad. The good ones are obviously the true positives, the light blue. Those are relevant products that I brought back. It's also good that I did not bring back the true negatives, the irrelevant products. It is bad, on the other hand, that I brought these yellow or orange colored irrelevant products back. And it's really bad. It's absolutely terrible that I failed to return some relevant products. Now, at this juncture, it's important to note that relevancy is kind of a subjective idea. There are some techniques that we can employ, and there are many blogs and videos on our website. You can read about these techniques for determining what relevant means in a more objective way. But if you could think of it this way, if I got 1,000 people together who knew something about the products that I have for sale, and I asked 1,000 of them, what's relevant, what's irrelevant here, and they would all say what their answer is, and we would aggregate all that together and say, okay, well, we can broadly agree that these things are relevant, these are irrelevant. If you set that aside for a second and just think about these 4 categories and use your own judgment as somebody who's optimizing an e-commerce site, you can kind of apply this heuristic to the things that you see. And when you do that, what I would recommend that you do is that you think about your problems and the prioritization of solving those problems in this way. The very first thing you should do is fix the searches that incorrectly yield nothing. You should have a report for this, your zero results report. You should be able to go into that, see what are people searching for that you don't have anything. And John's going to talk to you a little bit about an example of where they did something like that or similar to that. Second most important thing is to get the relevant products in, even if you over recall. In other words, if you can get all those gray products in that are relevant, but which were excluded from my query, even if it means bringing back more irrelevant products, do that. Try to get all of the relevant products back. Third, once you've done that, try to put the relevant products at the top and the less relevant products towards the bottom. And then fourth, notice this is not first. It's often the things that people attack first. Fourth thing is fix any UI, UX issues. If the site is just not usable, then of course fix that first. But if it's just some little tweak thing, something that somebody has an opinion that you ought to change, deprioritize that, move that down beneath these relevancy considerations. Once you address your UI, UX issues, number 5, get more precise by now starting to eliminate the false positives, the irrelevant stuff that I'm bringing back, the orange records in this example. 6th, start to put the products that you really want to sell that are relevant above the products that you don't care as much about selling. And then lastly, move from a lexical to a semantic understanding of what the user meant. And what I mean by that can be demonstrated here by looking at Amazon's website. So this is a query for dry lock concrete paint. Don't worry, I don't expect you to be able to see this image over on the left. This is just a full screenshot of the entire page that Amazon has for dry lock concrete paint. And if you zoom in and you look at the top 8 products, you see that they get it pretty well, right? There are, of these 8, I think, 6 of them are dry lock products. Notice that the first one is a sponsored product, an anti-grip or anti-slip grip paint, like with sand in it or something like that. And then also, though, notice very interestingly right here, Drylock's dreaded competitor, Kills, which has a basement and masonry waterproofer that presumably does a similar kind of thing to what Drylock does. So, you think about this. This is actually, from a certain standpoint, an irrelevant result, right? Because the user asked for Drylock, but here I'm showing them Kills. But on the other hand, this could be very relevant to the user, right? The user may not know that there's an alternative brand called Kills. And actually, this is an example from my own life. I was aware of Kills, but not Drylock. And so I went searching for Kills paint and ended up finding Drylock. So there is a question about whether that's really relevant or irrelevant. And that's a decision that you'll have to make as you optimize. And as you look further down this page from Amazon, you'll see more Kills products, and further down the page, you'll start to see some kind of accessory type products. So here, I think you can see a little bit less of a lexical and more of a semantic understanding of what the user is looking for, as well as some of the principles that I've talked about on the previous slides. So I hope that's a useful paradigm for you. I found it to be a really useful place to start when tuning up on-site search. And with that, I'll hand it to my, I've got one more, one or two more slides here really quick. Just to say really quickly before I hand it to John, one of the things that you want to think about is as you prioritize these problems is think about how often they occur. You know, something that occurs really, really often, even if it's not as severe, might be something that you want to prioritize around something ahead of something that's super severe but happens very, very seldom. Remember that queries come in patterns. So if they're lots of different queries that are kind of exhibiting the same kind of a problem, you might be able to fix that problem at its root and solve all of those queries. And then last, before I hand it off to John, just a few links for you to take away if you'd like to go and do some further reading about LucidWorks. All right, John, now it's your turn.
Thanks, Peter. Welcome to the B2B online conference. I'm John McQuaid, the Director of Software Development for NewPig. We're going to go over a couple of use cases that we went through using search analytics during COVID to help bring new products to market. We repositioned some products to better sell during the current environment, and we found opportunities to sell and merchandise third-party products that our customers were asking for via search, but we didn't have. So going back to Peter's first example of fixing searches that don't return anything, a lot of people searching for products that everybody wanted during the pandemic: hand sanitizers, masks, face shields. We didn't sell any of these products at the time. But what we did was recognize that there was a demand for these products, created a customer landing pages and some user experiences around, we don't have any hand sanitizer right now, but we're working on that. Here's some other things that may help you get through this pandemic. Wipers, floor mats, other products. And then we sourced those products from third parties, ended up merchandising them, and then removed those customized experiences and made sure that the user found what they're looking for at the end of those searches. On to our second use case, new products. So NewPig launched over 140 new products in the last 6 months. Pretty significant given our whole catalog is 2,500 products. So COVID increased our catalog by around 5%. So we used search analytics to determine what people were looking for, integrated that into the product copy to make these products more visible. We also created user experiences for generic search terms. When someone comes to your site and searches for COVID, what's that mean? I don't think anybody really knows what that means right now. So we created basically a guide to product discovery that laid out all of the different product offerings in various areas that we offered for COVID. And started recognizing what was working with that stuff using analytics and user signals. And important thing, iterate and optimize. One thing I've learned over the years of doing this is you're never really done looking at customer behavior and applying it to your search results. And our last use case that we used the analytics for was people were searching for various things where we felt we had a product that could kind of help solve the problem, but the product itself wasn't positioned well using its standard copy and images and attributes. So wipers are a good example. People were looking for pre-moistened wipers. Well, we didn't have those. But what we did have was a strong wiper for cleaning that can hold rated disinfectants very well and stays together, and it's very durable. So we took some of those products based on our search terms, repurposed those products, added new copy and attributes, and then ranked those products in those terms, resulting in an increase in sales of that particular product line during the pandemic.
Great. Well, thanks, John. Well, that's been our show for John McQuaid. I'm Peter Curran from LucidWorks. We hope you'll get in touch with us. This is how you do that. I love that story, John. Thanks so much for sharing that. It's always been the way that I think about searchers on a website is when you see a search in a log file, like a Google Analytics file, I try to imagine a person walking into a store and looking at an associate and saying those words. And you kind of showed us how we can use those words to gain insight about what people are looking for and some other products that you can bring to market, which is really cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.